Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and I'm back with another video focusing on using a couple colors of embossing powder on one image. Let's call this Ombre heat embossing, shall we? I discovered this trick about a year ago when I was making a card using a large, bold Cheers stamp from Hero Arts. I wanted to heat emboss my image using two colors of embossing powder. So after some trial and error, I ended up with a gorgeous gold and silver embossing. If you want to take a closer look at the card I'm talking about, you can check it out on the Hero Arts website, and I'll have a link to that blog post in the video description. Anyhow, today I'd like to share a video using that technique and a gorgeous Peace and Joy stamp from Hero Arts. So let's take a look at the card I'll be making in this video. It is a very simple holiday card, easy to mass produce, but it has that super unique ombre embossing. Look closely at the heat emboss sentiment. Can you see how embossing powder changes its color from left to right? I used 3 colors of embossing powder for this card, and in just a minute I'll show you how easy it is to create this look. So I'm going to start by prepping my white cardstock, and this is Nina Solar White, for heat embossing using my anti-static powder pouch. This will help me to keep my embossing nice and clean and will prevent embossing powder particles from sticking everywhere where I might have left my fingerprints on this paper. If you like to do heat embossing and do not have this little tool or a similar tool, I cannot recommend it enough. I know you can make one using baby powder or something like that. I've never made one. I just bought this little handy piece more than a year ago, and oh boy, I am so happy I did. It really does make a huge difference when you do your heat embossing. Next, I'm inking my stamp using Versamark Clear Sticky Ink, and this is my go-to ink for heat embossing. And I'm going to stamp this image right in the middle of my white cardstock. Now, if you don't have Versamark ink, you can use any other embossing ink, or you can use pigment ink. Pigment ink is usually a slow-drying ink, so it works great for heat embossing. And now is where all the magic of heat embossing is about to happen. Here I have embossing powder swatches with a couple of new colors of embossing powder from Hero Arts. So I have gold, it's an older color, brass, and platinum. Brass and platinum are the new colors. You can see these are similar but are different at the same time, and when combined together give you a stunning look. Now let me explain why I decided to use 3 colors of embossing powder on my card. I don't know about you, but I always have the most hard time making important decisions, like what color of ink to use, or what stamp set to select, or what die to cut with. So when it was time to choose embossing powder for this card, I simply couldn't choose, so I ended up using all 3 colors. I'm joking, of course, but the best part of this is this piece ended up looking super beautiful and unique. So the trick is very simple. Pour embossing powder over a section of your image only. Yes, it's as simple as that. I'm going a bit diagonally here. I'm holding my paper at an angle and pouring my first color of embossing powder, covering only a part of my image, the far left part. Now, I mentioned that I arrived at this after some trial and error. So here are a few tips of what not to do. Tip number 1, do not try to mask the part of your image you do not want to have embossing powder on. First of all, the sticky residue on the mask will transfer onto your paper and will mess up your embossing. Second, even if your mask doesn't have any sticky residue, say it's just a piece of paper, it will still mess up your embossing because it will pick up that Versamark ink on the stamped image. So it's best to work without any masks at all, but simply work in sections. Cover one section of your image with one color of embossing powder, next cover the next section with the next color, and finally cover the rest with yet another color. Tip number 2 is do not heat emboss in between the colors. If you pour one color onto one section and heat emboss it, your heat gun will dry the Versamark ink or whatever ink you use for heat embossing, and you will not be able to emboss other sections. So heat emboss the image only after it's been completely covered with embossing powder. So after I finished adding 3 colors of embossing powder onto my image and I used gold, brass, and platinum, I zapped this with my heat gun and melted the powder. The brass and platinum are new embossing powder colors from Hero Arts, but you can do this with any colors of embossing powder you like. You can go with gold and silver, you can go with white and black, or you can go with something like pink and red if you have a lot of colors of embossing powder. Now I'm going to use this winter scene stamp set and matching dies and stamp and cut a few images to add to my heat emboss sentiment. I'm using royal red and green filled inks from Hero Arts and stamping a house, a deer, and a tree to cut out and add onto my card. I really like this winter scene stamp set. I've used it on many cards already and I see so many other great uses for it. I'll have a couple of links to other projects that I created using this stamp set in the video description, and video description is also the place where you can find the links to the products that I used to create this card that I'm sharing today. Anyhow, back to the card. I also want to add something like a snowy border to my heat embossed panel, and I'm going to use this glittery self-adhesive tape. I guess it's like a glittery washi tape or something like that. Now it's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to alter it using my paper trimmer. I'm adhering onto my paper trimmer and I'm going to cut it, and we'll end up having two pieces. Now I could have just adhered this tape onto my paper and folded over to the other side, but cutting didn't seem to be too problematic, so I just cut it. Now we can go ahead and assemble this card. I'm going to use scrapbook adhesive, foam adhesive squares, and sheets to adhere my little die cut pieces and add some dimension to this project. I'm using foam square, or rather a half of a foam square, to adhere my deer. Next, I'm stamping another tree to complete the scene on the left, adding some adhesive from the adhesive sheet. It's also dimensional, but it's not as tall, I guess, as the foam square. So this way I can have some different levels of dimension. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right thing, but anyhow, I'm hoping you understand what I mean. And finally, I'm adding my little die cut house using the other half of that foam square from scrapbook adhesives. Here's an up-close look at this little cluster, and you can see how the foam square is taller than the foam adhesive sheet. Now, to make this card a little bit more festive, I'm also going to add some red and white baker's twine. Gotta love this twine. It turns just about any card into a holiday project. Lastly, I'm going to use a sheet of fun foam to adhere in between my heat embossed panel and my card base. And what this is going to do is it's going not only to add dimension to this card, but it's also going to help flatten my paper as it warped a little bit from all the heat embossing. So there you have it, a super simple way to create a heat embossed ombre look for your project. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click a thumbs up button, maybe drop me a comment and share this video with a crafty friend. You can also pin this video to Pinterest and save it for later. If this is your first time visiting my channel, be sure to subscribe and watch my previous videos. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!